What? Open what? I got a bottle opener. Thank you, though. Oh, sugar. Hey guys, I'm Si, and welcome to the Andy Campbell Championship Show, episode number 37. 37, nearly come rattling up to 50 episodes, and plenty to talk about. So got some retro games, got the penalty shootout quiz with that to finish the show. I'm sure Mr. Campbell will be singing again to finish us off, even though he got me a copyright strike on Facebook. They muted the end of the video. They said it was a copyright strike, but I think it was just his terrible singing. But yes, got loads of different shows coming up this week and last week. So many. We had Robbie Regan on last week. We had author Riaz Khan. What else do we have? Danny Batten MMA show where we talked Joe Calzaghe versus Roy Jones Jr. UFC 3, as well as Royce Gracie versus Sakuraba from Pride. It was a lot of fun. We also have coming up this week another Danny Batten MMA show. We have the Boot and the Limp live on Friday, our adult-only comedy podcast, where there's contains a lot of swearing, a lot of adult language and content. But if that's your thing on a Friday evening over a couple of beers, then join us. All the shows are available youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Please subscribe. We're just under 700 subscribers currently, trying to get up to the fabled 1,000, but I would like to get over 700 by this time next week, if possible. We need, I think it's 3 more. And you can also find the audio version of every single show we do at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, loads of others. And yes, lots of stuff coming up. We are new shows Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and now Sunday as well, because I've got so many shows backlogged that I've had to add an extra day. Joining me today is not only the goal collector, the legend of Middlesbrough, the prince of the Millennium Stadium, Davy Jones's favourite son, Mr. Andy Campbell. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you.
But we've also got a frozen Kevin McNaughton. So Kevin McNaughton's going to have to go out and then come back in. So I just kicked Kevin McNaughton. Never thought I'd say that. But yeah, while we wait for Kev to come back, how are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, it's been another strange week, long week. Days are getting longer, weeks are getting longer. But yeah, nice to have something to focus on a little bit. The normality, like a bit of normality.
Indeed, my friend. The live chat filling up very,
two legends,
very quickly.
Is that two legends on the chat there? Must be me and you.
Yeah, well, that's it. There's two legends.
There's only two left.
Yes,
there you go. It's only me and you here.
Yeah, he's coming back now. Two legends. Who else we got?
3 now.
David Evans.
3 now.
He said there he is. He says the legend himself, Simon. Well done. Football with Brownie, Alan Jones, Leslie Coates, Richie, Jamie Isles. It's just people everywhere. It's all sorts. We're live on Twitch today as well. So we're actually live on 4 different platforms. And there we go. And also joining me, as well as Mr. Andy Campbell, we have everybody's wife's friend, the Silver Fox, Cardiff City legend, Mr. Kevin McNaughton. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, all good. All good. Just getting into another bottle of wine. Wine.
That's it.
Nah, all good.
Stocked up on the red wine now after he drunk it dry during our unscripted and uncensored show. And did you know that Andy Campbell is still not done an unscripted uncensored?
No.
Which is shocking.
No, I've not had the offer. Down the pecking order, mate, innit? Down the pecking order.
Yeah, proper. We've had proper footballers doing it, haven't we? So, cut in.
Vicious.
Indeed.
You can tell Jonesy. You can tell Jonesy's in the room.
Yes. So, as well as the penalty shootout quiz with Super Kev playing the quiz master, we have the returning or soon to be award-winning feature that is Fake Geordie Bingo Lingo, where Mr. Andy Campbell tells us something about his northern culture, which will be very interesting because it's been on a short break while Andy extended his family. You ready for that, mate?
It's been on furlough. Furloughed it. Yeah, it's back out now. Back out
and ready.
Yeah, back out, ready and waiting. So, bigger and better than ever.
What we should have done. You know what we should have done? We should have got Super Kev to get do a Scottish version as well, shouldn't
we? Yeah.
Didn't give him enough warning.
Didn't give him notice.
Have to tell him next time now. Yeah. Next time.
Yeah.
Right. I can hear a baby.
I can hear a baby. So can I.
Yes. Noisy. Big Daddy Campbell. So, yes. So we got some retro games to cover, which I just realised I haven't watched all the highlights of, so I'm going to have to completely make that up as I go along. I watched some of them. I just remember they've forgotten.
I'll test you then. I'll test you about it.
I'll put them on one of my 65 screens. But you could tell Super Kev was back. As soon as he was back, it was, we'll have England versus Argentina from the 1986 World Cup.
Yeah.
So, good. Top man.
Could have been worse.
He knows his audience, though, doesn't he?
I was watching that Maradona documentary, and I just seen that game and thought, you know what, I'll just pop that one in there just to annoy Andy.
To be fair, I watched it then. I was in. Well, we're going to talk about, but I was in awe about. I kept watching it over and over. It just doesn't annoy me. It doesn't annoy me as much. It probably will annoy me what you two were going to talk about, but it doesn't annoy me because the genius of the man. But I know we'll go on about that later on.
Yeah. To be fair, so my memories of that game is obviously the famous clips, and like the hand of God and him dribbling through everyone to score that one goal. But what you forget is how good he was in the whole game. He was just amazing. But documentary is very good, actually. I think one of these weeks, maybe next week, we might give that a bit of a review in a bit of detail. Something different, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I know Andy, you've got a few things you want to discuss from the week's news.
Obviously, with obviously the news about the EFL starting and obviously players going back to training on May the 17th, 16th, 17th, and I just honestly don't see how this is going to happen. I just don't see how we can be in lockdown now for so many weeks and then expect to start this football season anytime soon. I want it to finish because there's loads of reasons. Liverpool deserve to win the league. Leeds deserve to get promoted. Cardiff City deserve an opportunity to get in the playoffs, as does Swansea, etc. But my massive concern at the whole thing of it is contracts, and the whole thing for me, and I don't know what Kev's thoughts about this are, but contracts. If you were a player, Kev, still playing now, and had signed a pre-contract agreement with a club, how would you feel about playing for Cardiff City, for example, or Swansea, or anybody for an extra month and risking a 3-year contract, risking a little bit of a lucrative deal, something you can retire on? You know what I mean? I just don't see how it's going to work.
No, I can't see how it can work either. I had this sort of discussion the other week with Si. Just the sort of permutations they're trying to just extend it are just the amount of different scenarios that you'll have to encounter. It just, for me, I can't see this season finishing just because of that, because of all the different things that need to be in place with contracts, with just even the following on season, what has to happen there as well. So it's just, and the fact that there's been a break now. I mean, it's a healthy break. Then what's that going to do for the players in terms of getting right back into it? They're not going to be able to get right back into it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And for me, they've spoke about next season far too early. You know what I mean? If the plan all along was just to finish the season, then finish it in August and start it the same time as you were, and just don't have a next season and shorten it down. Just do cups or just do something which will just get you ready for next season and for the Euros or whatever they may want to achieve from it. But for me, they're trying to get a season and a quarter into a short space of time, and I just don't think it's feasible. I honestly don't think it's feasible, and I feel sorry for those players because I was watching the Sky Sports conversations we were having, and it was the Plymouth manager who was on, and he said in July the 1st he's got 6 players signed on. The rest are out of contract. He said he wanted to offer lads a contract, but hasn't got round to it. He doesn't know if some of them have signed pre-contract agreements. He doesn't know if they're going to stay, if they want to stay, if they want to go, and he doesn't know if he's going to be able to fulfil the rest of the fixtures because of this. And that's such a minefield for me, and it's just an awkward situation scenario for fans, for players, for managers, for clubs, for chairmen. And the EFL for me they've acted massively hasty and made a decision without asking the players. For me, you ask the players, because the players are the ones who have to play and are risking their health, because they're the ones who are putting themselves at risk, as well as the managers and coaches and stuff and the staff on these kind of games, because they're going to travel around the country. They're going to have to put themselves under a little bit of pressure and put the families under pressure as well.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because I saw something. You broke up a bit on mine, so I don't know if you just said this, but that they were going to try and get it done by September, or it has to be done by September for the new season to start. And the way I read that was that they were basically going to almost do the 2 seasons back to back, whereby, if it does drag on till like August, September, they were going to basically saying we'll have 2-week break and then go straight into it, which I think that's massively problematic if you're doing, because you've had this break, which is going to cause issues with fitness anyway and injuries coming back. Then you do the rest of this season, then you have like a 2-week break, go into next season, play a full season, then you've got the Euros and the Olympics, I think, in the same summer, if any footballers play there as well. So and then you've got the next season again. So you're talking like a good 2 years of football non-stop. And I just think you're just asking for trouble. And like you look at someone like Joe Allen, who, before all this happened, had a season-ending injury, which would have cost him his place in the Euros. Like, how would you feel if you were, 34, 35, you probably to the Euros next summer now, and then because you've played so much football, because you've played back-to-back seasons, you pick up like a niggly hamstring injury towards the end of the season, which keeps you out of the Euros because it keeps coming back, and then it gets, and then it tears whatever, and you need surgery. You miss out on your last chance at international tournament. That's going to be a massive thing. What do you reckon about that, Ant?
I just don't like, and this is the word we're using at the minute, we're using the word break, and I don't see this as a break, because mentally the players aren't breaking, because they're thinking about, they've still got work to do, they've still got a massive job ahead of them. Some of them have got to win titles, some of them have got to make Champions League, some of them have got to get promotion, relegation, obviously new contracts, other clubs earning a contract. There's still loads of permutations for every single player in the top divisions, and like break wise, players need a break, and even if it's just a mental break, and just to get themselves a little bit of sun with the families and stuff, and a little bit of time away. And the way this is going to work, players aren't going to get a proper break, because they're just going to go straight from one season to another season. And people will say they've had a break because they've had this time away, but you know what I mean. Probably every player. Probably Kevin will know more than me. He's probably spoke to a lot more players, but they're training themselves. You know what I mean? They're doing programs themselves. They're training on their own. You know what I mean? And during the off season, you give yourself at least a good few weeks break. And players haven't had that opportunity because, as I say, I use Middlesbrough for example. You know what I mean? Middlesbrough trained all the way through up to lockdown. They're now training on their own. You know what I mean? Until they go back. So those players have not had a break whatsoever. You know what I mean? They're going to go straight from one season to another season. And that could have relegation on top of it. It could have staying up on top of it, hopefully. And then they're going to go into another season. I just don't see how it can work, because there'll be an excuse. It might not be this season. The excuse will be the following season, and that'll be such a shame, that, because it's money, it's supporters' money, it's players' health, fitness, financial package, mental well-being. There's loads of things what's going to have an impact on.
Yeah, I agree. So Football with Brownies just said there. So I'll put this one to Kev. What's annoying me is that the Premier League and the EFL are mentioning possible dates when the government haven't mentioned anything. They don't care about the dead, only about their bottom line. What would you say to that, Kev?
Yeah, the degree was some of that. I think in terms of dates and stuff, it's the government is going to decide that, and when it's safe. It's, at this point in time, it's not safe. And there's a question mark on when it will be safe. I don't think anybody really knows. So for me to start mentioning dates and things like that it's impossible. You don't have a crystal ball as to when this is all going to clear up. So in terms of that, it is impossible. And I think you've got to remember, it's at the end of the day, it's a sport. I think people's lives are a wee bit more important at the end of the day. So I know it's a massive shame for the teams that are doing well, and for the teams who are well away from relegation and things like that. If the league's scrapped, I mean, I really want the season finished. I'm desperate for the season to get finished properly. But at the end of the day, this is an event that's not happened in hundreds and hundreds of years, and it probably won't happen again in another 100 years. So it's a one-off event that you've just got to draw a line under it at times and just say, call an end to the season and start afresh. I know it's the same for businesses. A lot of businesses are suffering. Football's going to suffer as well. For me, they're trying to milk it because of the financial situation. They're trying to run it as long as they can, which I don't really agree with. I'm with Andy in terms of mental breaks and things like that, and the ramifications of that is difficult. So
yeah, it does feel like it's the Premier League and the EFL, and to a lesser extent the Scottish Premier League, because it's those three out of the whole of Europe who haven't announced like an extended break. They've kind of been doing it like a few weeks at a time, whereas a lot of the others, I think we brought the image up a couple of weeks ago, which said, all Italy, everywhere, Spain, they've either done it till like May, or obviously the non-league is done. To me, it's more important that we get people healthy and get people, self-employed people, back to work and get kids back in school and all this type of things, than whether we finish the football season. I just don't understand why FIFA haven't stepped in and across the board said, right, the football season is done. This last season is void. We're going to start from the start, and we'll start in September, hopefully, and away we go. I'll never be able to quite get my head around that. So I'll put this one to Andy. I would think, Richie says, I would think all loan players will go back to their clubs, and possibly if players come to an end of a contract in June, they'll just get month-to-month temporary contracts until the season officially restarts.
If you've signed a pre-contract agreement with a club which starts on July the 1st, then then your contract starts with another club on July the 1st. So how you could be expected to stay at that club, because you could have fell out with the manager, you could have moved house, you could be moving to another country. You know what I mean? There's loads of things which are going to upset comments. You know what I mean? And clubs and fans, because you know what I mean, a player's going to refuse to play. You know what I mean? Because you've got to see it from a player's point of view. And if a player's coming to an end of a contract and is 34-year-old and has got one last contract in him, for me, I've got every sympathy in that player to have one last go at seeing a 2-3 year contract out, hopefully, for that individual, and so they can have a better future. themselves. Because I'm not on about Premier League players here, by the way. We're on 200 grand a week. I'm not on about Premier League players. I'm on about League One players or Championship players and lads who've potentially still need to work again. And you know what I mean. And I just can't see it working. I don't think they've asked players enough information or how they feel, because ask the lads who are out of contract. Don't ask a lad who's got 4 years left on a deal if he wants to finish the season, and ask clubs in mid-table who've got nothing to play for. Ask players who have signed a pre-contract agreement or talked to an agent who's done a deal for somebody, just so they've got a little bit more information. And you spoke there about the clubs have gone above the government and they're making all these decisions, because they must have some inside information here, because all we get is the same information as everybody else, and we get the information from the government talking every day at 5 o'clock. So unless the Premier League have had special meetings behind, and the EFL have had special meetings, then I don't get it. Because you look at, and obviously Kev lives in Scotland, and Scotland have made their own president and done what they've done. And do we agree with it? Probably not. But they've decided to do what they've done. They've relegated teams who don't deserve to get relegated. Some have took it on the chin. They've given the titles to clubs who don't probably deserve it yet, but probably would have got it in the long run. Do they deserve it? Probably not. But listen, it's if a decision's made, you get on with it. But for me, I'd probably prefer to see the season off and finish the season and then just start the next season when it's fit and ready and everyone's 100% out of any danger, than carry a season on and play back to back.
Yeah, spot on, mate. I don't agree with what Scotland have done one bit, I got to say. I understand why they have, but I think it's the wrong decision. I think it's massively unfair, which I'll come back to in a minute. I also wanted to just give a shout out to Mr. Jason James, who I know is watching, who was hospitalised with the coronavirus recently, but he fought back and is still fighting back. And I think I speak for all three of us when I say we wish him well. And obviously, thanks for watching as well, mate.
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely,
100%.
Kev, what do you think of the situation with Scotland, where they've basically, from what I understand, I might be correct me if I'm wrong, one of you, but they've basically just finished the season where it is now, and they've just relegated whoever's in the bottom three and champions and promoted and whatever.
Yeah. So they had a vote from sort of championship level downwards. All clubs were given a vote, and they had to pass 75% an agreement of the season finishing, which it was actually like a drama. You know, somebody never handed in the vote. It ended up going on for about 4 days longer than it should have, and then eventually decision was made to call halt to the league season, and whoever was in positions in terms of promotion became champions, and teams got relegated. So I'm the same. I didn't really agree with that. I think I'd like to see the seasons finished, but when it's safe to do so, I don't want it rushed. I don't want anybody's health put in jeopardy. The way Scotland have done it, they went for a vote. For me, I think they should have just taken the decision. It takes a sort of. I just don't think it's fair asking teams who are in half decent positions. Majority of teams are going to say yes. They're going to say yes to the vote. The teams that are in relegation zone have got chances to get out. They're obviously going to say no, which is the one or two. So,
and those bottom three are always going to be. Sorry to interrupt you, mate. Those bottom three, they're always going to be outvoted, because everybody outside the bottom three is going to vote to end the season because they're safe.
Yeah.
So, those bottom three teams will always get outvoted by the rest of the league.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I think as I've mentioned before, if they say they did this in the English pyramid, you'd have Liverpool would win the league, which they could, if they finish the season, Liverpool are going to win the league, fine. But you'd have Sheffield United would just miss out on Champions League spot, but they've got a game in hand, which would take them into the Champions League spots. Aston Villa are currently in the bottom three, but they have a game in hand, which would take them out of the bottom three. So how can you relegate them when they haven't played the same amount of games as everyone else? And then you've got the things like we discussed, Andy, before about, certain teams might not have played each other. You could have, Liverpool might be however many points ahead, but their next 5 games could be Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, whoever. I don't think they are, but for instance, and that goes for all teams. It can be all, different connotations, and it's difficult, isn't it? There's we've talked about it for weeks, haven't we? In different, and it just seems each week we're adding a different connotation to it because something else comes out or something else happens. Sorry, Andy, what were you going to say there, mate?
I think it's even worse. And Kevin knows he played in Scotland. Obviously, I played in Scotland. I think it's worse in Scotland because, especially relegation, because with the split as well, the games for Hearts, for example, and the games will become for them a little bit easier than the games that they've had already. So they'll have probably been focusing and looking forward to the split because they're playing against the bottom 6 in the league, and the chances are they'll probably pick more points up in the split than they will have done during the rest of the season. And it's a strange call, but that like you say, the votes was never going to be as straightforward because if you're bottom of the league, you're going to vote against it. If you're just above them, you're going to vote for it, and if you're just above them, you're also going to vote for it. And I just don't know if there was another fairer way without probably just seeing the season out when you needed to finish it, and then just forgetting about next season a little bit and just I don't know. I don't know. There could have been an Anglo-Scottish Cup and did it during the season instead of a full season next season. There could have been something so different, random, and just ask people instead of doing what they've done, because I just don't think it's a feasible option for both countries at the minute. And we're talking about British football here, where we're all attached, and I just don't see how that can work and be fair when it hasn't happened across the board.
I think one of the problems was because a few clubs were struggling financially, so they wanted to finish it so that they could distribute the prize money in terms of where they finished and the positions they finished. I think that was one of the reasons a lot of the clubs as well were desperate for the season to be finished, just to stay afloat, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But then could they not just put it all in a pot and just share it out equally anyway? So some teams will get more than others, or or some people. I don't know. You know what I mean? That just to tie them over, or I don't know. I know that, but then Celtic won't be happy with that because Celtic and Rangers would have lost out financially, and their outgoings will be more than Hamilton's will be and Kilmarnock's will be. So it's what I mean. There's no one will be a winner regardless of which decision they would have made. So, and that's probably my argument, that you're always going to upset somebody, and probably upsetting 4 teams across 4 leagues is probably the easiest way of doing it, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, there was only, to be fair, there was 2 teams who were about 15, 16 points ahead. So winning the championship wasn't too much of a sort of struggle, but there was likes of Falkirk who were 1 point off in League One. Teams like that, they're absolutely spewing once you find out the season finished. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it as well. There's no appeal process or anything like that. It's just been done. It's drawn a line under it now.
So there's a couple of people who are disagreeing with each other in the live chat just about the fact that players get paid so much money, but then they still got families. They've still got they could still have vulnerable people living in their property, in their houses, within their families, and also they could have babies. But it's not just the players; it's the staff, it's the managers, the assistant managers, the coaches. Not all of them are on mega bucks. And Brad makes a good point there. He says players still need to have breaks and time to themselves. It doesn't matter if they're professionals; they should be doing. They should be doing it if they get paid mega bucks, etc. It doesn't matter. A body still needs time to heal and relax, which is damaged from throughout the season. And also, it's like you mentioned earlier, it's the mental side of it. They, at the moment, they have to be ready. Like I know for a fact from the couple of players which I've spoken to recently, players have been told be ready to play basically next week, so that teams know that when they get that call to say they're going to play behind closed doors, it won't take them a full pre-season to get back up to to full fitness. What do you reckon, And?
I think you've got to remember, Si, that the players are also innocent in all this, because the players have not been asked what their opinion is. They've just been told that they're going to be going back and they're going to play. You know what I mean? And how would I feel? You know what I mean? Because mentally, you probably think that the season's finished. You probably hear all the stories and you hear everything what's been said. So you probably mentally think that your season's finished. You're probably relieved if you're in a relegation fight. You're relieved if you're mid-table. You're obviously disappointed if you're up there. But then all of a sudden you get this glimmer of hope that you're going back. You get told that you're 3 weeks in lockdown. Then we've had 3 weeks in lockdown. We're going to have another 3 weeks in lockdown, and it must be so hard to cope with mentally, and then people are giving dates to go back, but we don't know we're going to go back. You know what I mean? The players don't know they're going to go back. They're giving dates in the EFL that they're going to go back training the 16th, 17th of May. If we go on another lockdown, then you ain't going back on that date. So I don't see how these dates are even used. You know what I mean? The kids don't even know when they're going to go back to school. So if kids don't want, and that's the most important part, kids going back to school, the whole world opening again properly. You know what I mean? Because you've got to travel. You know what I mean? They're on about wearing masks if you're going on public transport. Well, players are going to use public transport because they're going to use trains and stuff. You know what I mean? Who've been used by the general public, who've been used buses by general. You know what I mean? It might be club buses, but people use those buses as well for various things. So I just think I think there's things that people haven't talked about properly, looked at properly, and. I don't know. As a player, I would be a little bit uneasy because you're also getting grief from family, friends, kids. That do you want to play, and that's mentally going to be in your head as you're going to a game, finishing a game, that you're coming back home and bringing potentially something back with you, and it's that's just not fair.
I'll tell you what. Here's a question for you then, for both of you. All of us. We've all got kids, okay? So mine's by there, just by. One of them's by there.
Yeah, where are we? There.
Yeah. So in the paper today, it said that they're on about sending the kids back in a few weeks to school. Yeah. And I kind of said to my missus, also by there, that I'm going to get to a comment in a minute. It's very offensive. That I've already said that if it's in a couple of weeks, my kids are not going back to school because I'm not satisfied that it'll be safe for them to do so. And until I am, they won't go back to school regardless of what the government says. So I just wanted to ask you two really briefly, like, if they say, right, the schools are open in, say, 2 weeks' time, would you be happy for your kids to go back to school in 2 weeks' time from now?
Well, I don't. Sorry, just to put in there. I don't think it's just the kids who are important here, because you know what I mean. Obviously, I work in school, and I've got people who, colleagues of mine who are nervous about going back to work, because of wives, husbands, partners, their own kids at home, what they're bringing. Well, they're also bringing things back, because you know, I mean, we're working in a primary school setting. You know what I mean? We know what our own kids are like. That they're not the most hygienic of things when they're at school. Then they don't wash their hands as much as they should do, and they don't, you know what I mean? And they don't put their hands over the mouth when they should do. You know what I mean? We try to bring them up the best we can, but people make mistakes and do things that they shouldn't do more often than not. So you know what I mean? And then as a parent, what do? Do you drop your kids off 25 meters away from the school gate and watch them walk in on their own without seeing them in, because other parents are going to be in and around the school? You know, you want to do what you normally do. You want to give your little boy or your little girl a kiss as they're going into school gates. But kids have a right to finish school as well. You know what I mean? We've got kids who are finishing year 6 who won't get that opportunity to say goodbye to teachers, to the friends. Got kids who in year 11 who aren't doing GCSEs. I just think it's such a minefield and such a shame, because people are going on grades where I'd have loved it, because I probably would have got better qualifications if this would have been around when I was at school. But you know what I mean? It must just be a nightmare for people who want to do well for themselves.
Indeed. What about you, Kev?
Yeah, I don't think the schools will be back in 2 weeks. I'd be very surprised if they are. But I think it's always just a case of safety first. You know, it's difficult. It's going to be difficult over the next few weeks in terms of integrating people back into work and things like that, into schools. But I think, you know, if you ask anybody if they want the whole thing to finish and you had to stay in the house for an extra 2-3 weeks, and not risk having to go through all this again if it starts spreading again. I think you'd find that most people would say, "Oh, quite happy to hold off another couple of weeks and just go through the sort of." And it's not easy, but at the end of the day, it's just to help people and to save people staying inside. So if I got asked to stay in for an extra month, I think, yeah, would I like it? No, but I would just try and grab and bear it. And I think that's the same with. You don't want to be sending kids back too early, and just for the sake of just getting them back in quickly.
No, I totally agree. I think
spot on.
We're all doing this for a reason, Si, aren't we? You know what I mean? We're doing it to protect family, friends, yourselves, your loved ones. You know what I mean? So we're not doing it. The government aren't doing this to annoy people and get on people's nerves and to spite people. The government are doing it because people are losing their lives, and too many people are losing their lives on a daily basis. So we're doing it to protect people, and schools are no different. Schools are no different to probably supermarkets. You know what I mean? To football games. There's loads of people going to one place at one time, and unfortunately, you've just got to make that decision which is safe for every single person. If that's a 5-year-old child or a person who's just about to retire, who's been working in education for 35, 40 years, it's just, it's got to be right for everybody.
Yeah, spot on them. And so, what do you reckon about this? I just wanted to ask you something. What do you think about this, Kevin? It's a bit offensive. I'm not sure about the character who sent it in, but
he's a joker.
It's shocking. So for the audio listeners, I always forget it. Reece Weston says Scottish Premier League a shambles. Kevin Mack a ledge. Oh, and so is the other lad as well. Thank you. I appreciate that, Reece. I appreciate you saying those kind words about myself.
Nothing towards me, though. Terrible.
Because you had a bit of a hard time, man. My wife commented on your hair, and
I know.
It's so shocking.
I know.
What's going on? It was your birthday on the weekend as well.
Bullying in the workplace.
Bullying in the workplace, indeed. I did just flick something up on the screen, guys. If you have sent in questions for either Andy or Kev to answer, or both, and I don't get them at around about the hour mark, which is about 20 minutes, I'll do like a little question and answer bit where we can answer questions. Because between the four platforms, I'm struggling to keep up with all the comments. So to keep the show flowing, I'm gonna do that in about 20 minutes time. Andy, did you have any other news, stories, or rumours that you wish to discuss?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Joey Barton's comments about Ross Barkley's 5K, and just Joey Barton's outspoken at the best of times, and but to question people's ability at running or question just stuff, I just think is just laughable, and the lad does things for attention, and obviously social media over the years is outstanding at its best. But I just I'm bored of it all anyway. Watching people do 5K, I enjoy running, but you know what I mean. I enjoy keeping when I get a personal best. It's for me. I don't like to share it with anybody else because I'd be wounded if someone else beat it like 30 seconds later, or just showed what they've got and just show me up straight away. Every time I beat it, I'm happy that I beat it because it's something what's personal towards me. I'm not saying I'm the best runner in the world, but you know what I mean? I just think sometimes I know people are doing it because they're bored and stuff, but I'd rather see funny videos than silly comments like that.
Yeah, it was weird. Was that the one where he said something about because I saw one tweet he put up about basically someone had what was it? They cheated or something on their 5K run, or they'd altered the times or something like that. I wasn't. It's a bit weird. Joey's a character. I gotta say, I would love to get Joey Barton on an episode of Unscripted and Uncensored. I think he would be box office, but he's too big. He's too big for me, and I have tweeted him a couple of times to try and get him on. Him and Roy Keane are like the ultimate guests for that series, but it's difficult to get hold of these people with their millions of followers and that. Okay, Kevin, anything which has caught your eye this week in the news?
No, I was just wondering what was actual time. What was the time that he posted? I was curious because I couldn't find that.
Oh.
He posted.
Who was
It was about 18 minutes, wasn't it? It was about 18 minutes. It was definitely under 20. Well under 20. So I didn't know if that was feasible. Yeah, if that was feasible because
that's doable. Like that's doable.
You know what I mean? And he's a professional footballer. He's at the peak of his probably level. So why is it possible?
I think he's probably having a pop at him because he's obviously he's got that frame that you wouldn't expect somebody to be able to run that. But I mean, lots of boys who were similar to that and they could just run all day. Even like you'd probably say like Charlie Adam as well. I wouldn't say he
doesn't look like a runner. Doesn't look
like a runner, but he could run. I remember Gav Ray telling me about him at Rangers. Said he'd just run all day.
Yeah,
used to just So boys like that, I know. That's a wee bit. I think that's a wee bit harsh.
Yeah, I think he's probably given his Fleetwood players a target to hit and be doing it every day. And he's been getting their numbers in, and he's seen obviously a Premier League player beat all his players, and he's probably then just thrown it out there that his players have been getting probably 7-8 minutes more than that, or I don't know. Joey does things for attention. I don't know if he's probably taking pressure off himself and his own players and trying to calm things down, or he's trying to cause an issue with somebody else.
Yeah, he's a bit controversial.
Extremely.
Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? Tim wants you to do a full glass neck and nominate, I'm afraid. Super Kev.
It's not the best wine in the world. It's like vinegar. Glass of vinegar. Trying out some new wines tonight. Not the
best. Richie says, get Ernie on side. Listen to his interview last night on the EFL podcast. Was brilliant about his upbringing, etc. I have tried to contact him a couple of times. I'm waiting for him to get back to me. Mm-hmm. But I am working on it. I have been speaking to a certain Cardiff City legend the last couple of days, and he's coming on. Hopefully he'll record that next week. So keep an eye out on that one. He's a true legend. Enjoyed playing Leeds as well, apparently. There we go. So I'll tell you what then. I'll do it early. If you've got any questions for these two gentlemen, send them in now. And I will go from here. Reece David Evans says, try and get Eddie Johnson on. I am working on that also. Sent him a DM recently. Well, my wife did, because Eddie Johnson follows her, but not me. Didn't take that personally at all. Yeah. What else we got? Let's have a look what else we got. Christian McGrain says, Kevin, Andy, surely you can tap up some of your previous teammates to get them on you. Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? You would.
Who would be? Gav Ray likes to do these sort of chats. He likes chatting about football, so you could maybe get Gav Ray on.
I've already had him on, Kev. Come on, pay attention, mate. I have, yeah. For you.
Gav loves talking about football. Gav will do that.
Love talking. Right, let me see. I'll go see if I can find these questions because I know there was loads. Let's have a look. What have we got? I can't find them now. There's so many comments. It's unreal. You go. So Jack Taylor says, Kev, as a player with Cardiff, and the crowd always played their part. Example against Leicester in the playoff semi-final, that atmosphere was electric. Also against Man City in the Premier League, that helped maybe get a win over the line. Is potentially playing behind closed doors a leveler, and how much of a difference would it make to you playing behind closed doors as a player?
Yeah, it's not great. Well, I was lucky enough not to play too much reserve football, but I remember playing reserve football and it was playing in big stadiums that were empty. So it wasn't easy. It's not easy doing that. I almost want it to be quite, especially when there's no crowd there. You actually want it to be a small pitch and a small ground, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's fairly difficult in terms of, I found that I got a little lift from the fans every now and again. Just to to get you through that sort of wee 5 or 10 minute spell where you were struggling or you were, having to dig in. So for me, it plays a part. And you think you could ask anybody who went to likes of Ninian Park and places like that who, that hostile type atmosphere could actually, it could cause teams to wilt, So, it will play a part. How it might even sell out in terms of obviously playing home and away and things like that. But it will be difficult. It will be difficult for players to sort of adjust.
It will definitely be different, won't it? And it'll be, I think it could be, for instance, like teams like Sheffield United in the Premier League. I think it could actually make it harder for them. Same with teams like Burnley, who've got those quite small grounds, not so much Bramall Lane, but like Burnley's ground is quite small. And so when big teams come and play at Burnley, the crowd's up for it, the team's up for it. And I think that could kind of make that a slightly easier place to play at. So what do you think about this comment, Andy? Just kind of circling back, Brownie says that there's rumours that La Liga is finishing the league now, no matter how many games teams have in hand, etc. So I'm assuming that means same as Scotland, they'll do it as they do it.
Again, you're opening a can of worms, aren't you? Because and unfortunately, the problem you probably got there is who's top? Is it Barcelona or Real Madrid? Because whoever's not top will probably sue the life out of the league. So the problem you got there is you're opening a can of worms with probably one of the richest clubs in the world, and they can afford to fight you all the way because they're not going to just want. See, for me, you could probably just have a mini little league next like not cancel this season, cancel next season, and just have mini little leagues and just have so many splits in the league in certain leagues, because for a fact La Liga, probably Bundesliga, even the Premier League to a certain extent, and obviously SPL, that who the top sides are at this time, and so just split the league into small chunks and just play loads of games over a course of a season and put them all live on TV. So there's football generating all the way through the year. There's different ways and permutations of doing these things, and I wouldn't, because I just think it'd just be a waste, because we're on about probably one of the best leagues in the world, same as the Premier League, and I don't think you can do what's happened in Scotland, because you know what I mean. You're on about Leo Messi and Benzema and all them kind of players, and Si's done one, just getting punished for no apparent reason, and I don't think you can do that. Like if I'm honest. Right, Kev, what we got here? So what's this question here? So lads, did you ever have the chance to play abroad during your career? Well, Kev, you did, didn't you? Because you came to England and Wales, so you played abroad, didn't you?
Yeah, Dave went across the border. I had, before I signed with Cardiff, I had the opportunity to play in Holland and in Norway, just because I was pre-contract. I was obviously allowed to speak to them. Yeah. So I had the chance. I spoke to, I think it was NEC Nijmegen or something like that. So that's it.
Well, I was similar. So when I left Cardiff, I had a couple of options which I was going to take. One was I was going to go to Holland. I'd agreed a deal to go over to Den Haag and play for them. It's the team which Alan Pardew was currently manager of. But obviously with a young family, my daughter was only a year old, so I went down the safe route of just going over to Scotland, really, because it was obviously closer to my home with family and stuff. So it was the easier option, really. You know what I mean? I think lifestyle-wise, I think it would have been a really interesting thing to do. It's something which I wouldn't ever say I do regret not doing it, but it was a lovely option and something which gives you something to think about, doesn't it? Because it's I don't know. I don't think a lot of British people do it and go abroad. You know what I mean? There's people do it and they only probably do it for a short space of time, but the ones who do it, it's quite successful, really.
Yeah, I look back on that sort of decision and think, what would have happened, really? But again, the thing with Cardiff was it ended up, really settled and loved it down here. So they made the right choice at the end of the day. But you always think back, like, what would have happened if they had done that? Would it have led to anything else, or would your career have gone backwards, or you think of those decisions you make?
Yeah, well, I don't think. Well, it's a progression, isn't it? You know what I mean? Where I see British football is a ladder progression, and you know what I mean. I think going abroad, unless you're going to a top top side in who plays in Europe or Champions League or Europa League, I think it's probably a 2-year, probably maximum 3-year thing, and then you're probably looking around thinking, what's next? Because you probably missed that boat doing something. Then you might have picked an injury up, like you say, and then you're probably scraping about thinking, oh, what did I do that for? You know what I mean? And hanging on here and there and everywhere. And I don't think it personally was a right decision not to do it.
Yeah, there's obviously success stories as well with that. Where then a few people end up living abroad and end up growing roots there as well and learning the lingo and things like that. So it's for the kids and stuff like that. It's good,
Yeah, there's lifestyle, isn't it? It gives them a different outlook on life and going to a different school, and you know what I mean, and meeting and seeing a broad horizon on things. But when you're there to work and you're there to do a job, it's not the be all and end all, and it's not something that probably attracts more than British football, and especially going to and living in a big city. You know what I mean? Because you're going into something which is massively unknown, and but yeah.
Yeah,
indeed. Brad Baston asks, what do you think of the current vendetta on footballers being targeted for main pay cuts? Do you feel it's right? Kev?
I know where this is coming from. Obviously, the lad got questioned in the media, footballers, and he was quite quick to jump on them. I seen a little thing that Piers Morgan did. He had an interview with the same guy. I forget the guy's name, to be honest with you, but
Nick Hancock.
Yeah, that's the one. And obviously suggested that he took a pay cut as well, where he actually he downright refused to take a pay cut and said, which
he said, did he say he's working hard or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he's going to work hard instead, which is obviously nice of him. But I think New Zealand government, I'm sure, have all taken a pay cut.
That's where those comments came from. That Piers said that New Zealand government have all took a 20% pay cut until it's all sorted out and finished. And was he going to do it? And he said, "I'm not going to do it, but I promise you to work hard for the foreseeable future." And well, imagine a footballer coming out with comments that, you know what I mean, I'm not going to play well, but I can guarantee you that I'll try my best. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's a given. It's an absolute given, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and let's not forget that footballers are not the only people who earn a lot of money in the UK. I saw a thing the other.
It's the top earners in football. It's a broad horizon. You look at guys who are, scraping for a living down at the bottom. So why are they being pigeonholed in that as well? Why are they still in the mix? And like Andy made that comment earlier on, and I agree with that. I think people forget that there's different levels of football, in terms of financial gain. There's guys who been scraping a living for 15, 16 years, and then they're now going into looking for a job straight away in football. But why they're getting targeted as well, I don't know. But
it's that word, isn't it? It's that word footballer. You know what I mean? Professional footballer, everyone stereotypes them as, you know what I mean, they're all getting paid the same money. But there's lads at Hartlepool United, there's lads at Manchester City. You know that the lads at Hartlepool United, you might get yourself a nice move, and it might be now that you're out of a contract and you're signing a pre-contract agreement, but now it could be all scuppered because of what's going on. And you know what I mean, that punters put you all in the same bracket and they're all in the same pot and think they're a footballer, they can afford to do this, they can afford to give money to NHS and things. And you know what I mean, the argument's never been a case of the NHS. You know what I mean, we've all argued for years that they've never been paid enough. We've all argued that they do an amazing job. You know what I mean, the argument is that why you would come on a national, why Mr. Hancock would come on a national live interview and just say that footballers should take a pay cut, because like Kev just said there, you know what I mean, if he came out and said all footballers who are paid over a figure, then they've got to take a pay cut, and it's got to be either given back into the government, or but that's easily done. They could go to HMRC, and they could do it. They could take it off the tax. They could do. There's loads of ways that could have been sorted out without doing a silly interview and a comment which just derogatories every single footballer and just makes everybody upset, and ex-players as well, by the way, not just you know what I mean. There's ex-players who is upset, owners who is upset, managers who is upset. You know what I mean? Because these players then are thinking, should I give someone money away? You know what I mean? I can't really afford it. We've got mortgage to pay for, but then
I just think it overly pressurizes a lot of people into situations, especially some that are not able to do it. And they feel obliged to do it then. On top of things.
Yeah, no, that's the thing for me, Kev. That I think a few people will feel pressurised. When this letter came of the players putting this package together, this deal together. You know what I mean? It was probably the letters just tweeted out left, right, and centre from everybody, but no one ever knew how much was getting, which percentage. Was it a donation? A donation could be 20 quid. You could be on 200 grand a week, and you're donating 50 quid. You know what I mean? Where somebody who's on £1,000 could be donating £500.
Yeah,
just nobody ever said anything.
I saw a thing. I can't remember where I saw it, but somewhere this week that I read that I think there's 15 billionaires in the UK, and if they all donated £1 million, which is complete, pennies to them, that would fund pretty much everything which we would need to fund for the next however long, couple of months, whatever it be, maybe see us out of the corona crisis, in terms of donating that 15 million to the to the NHS for the protective equipment and this sort of thing. And it's like, why aren't they getting the same amount of grief that the footballers are getting? Because footballers don't have billions. But for some reason, do you know why it is? It's because they own all the newspapers. Ian David wants to know, what's your quickest 5K, Andy?
I really got into me running last year. It was probably the year before last, when I was 39, when I decided to put my boots back on. So I did a good 6 weeks and got better and better, and kept everything to myself, and did myself a little program. I got about 23, just under 24, 23.50 or something. I was delighted with it. So when I see people doing 18, I'm thinking, well, yeah, that's brilliant, but I'm not a runner. I'm not a long distance runner. More of a sprinter. Was. So long distance running has never been my forte. So I was over the moon with that.
What about you, Kev?
I was decent runner. So I think mine was I've got on my phone my data saved on my phone. I used to have this app called Map My Run. So
yeah, that's why I use that one.
Yeah, and I was actually looking back when I was actually playing, and it was 18 minutes 9 seconds, and I try to get under 25 minutes the other day. I can't get in, struggling to get anywhere near 25 minutes at the minute. So I've managed to put about 8 minutes onto my time that I had about 6-7 years ago.
Healthy living, Kev. Healthy living, that.
Yes, obviously red wine coming out my pores as I'm running.
But to be fair though, that's the thing though, Si. We're on about Joey Barton questioning people. You know what I mean? So what do you question Kev then about his time? You know what I mean? Because regardless, like on my run, I could get in the car and I could go around and I could time it. I could go on my bike and no one would know. You know what I mean? But end of the day, if you're gonna put something on there and you're gonna put it on social media and you're gonna do it seriously, then you're gonna do it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Someone's going to see you running. You know, these are professional footballers, and you know what I mean. You can't question somebody who's at the peak of the fitness, who wants to go to the Euros next year, who's just signed for Chelsea a year ago, who's trying to get in their side, who's trying to impress Frank Lampard. You know what I mean? He's there's got to be a little bit of something there, like jealousy. There's got to be something.
Yeah,
there's guys I know who are playing at Dundee are doing better times than that. You know. Dundee FC boys, I know a couple of boys post their times up and they're doing better times than that. So
yeah, there you go. Obviously myself, I do about 13 minutes, but yeah, easy.
A mile.
Reece, yeah. I can't even walk that far, mate. Reece David Evans asks for both of you, what is it about Cardiff that made so many ex-players that seem to have such a special relationship with the club and its fans? Kev, you go first this time.
I just found it really easy to mingle with Cardiff fans, especially at events and things like that. It was always just
pissheads.
Yep.
I found that probably the most easiest thing about it, and the way they treated me from day one I came down. You know, I felt like you get treated like a hero, really. All they ask for is just 100%,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what that's what you try and give. And I think the one thing I was never the best player when I was growing up or when throughout my career, but I always like to think that I gave everything. So the fans were always brilliant to me. I think that's why I probably appreciate them as well in terms of when I've left, and look back on it. It's a fond sort of, obviously a fond period because I was here for a fair length of time, but I just think in and around the stadium, just meeting the fans, and it was always good. It was always enjoyable. It was always really nice to speak to boys outside the ground and things like that. They were always great with me, so I think that's why I found.
What about you, Ant?
I think Ninian Park had a massive impact on that. I think obviously the way that the ground was set up and the players obviously had to walk obviously over the main road and things that you didn't have any other choice than to interact with supporters, and that is a massive reason. You know what I mean? Because you talk to people like normal people. You know what I mean? You weren't ushered into the ground, you weren't ushered away, so people can't get to know you and get to talk to you before a game, after a game, and I think that's important. I think nowadays players are so protected from the public and from supporters, even your own supporters, and social media and things, and I don't think there's any interaction, any kind of relationship. You know what I mean? Probably, it probably stopped when Kev finished playing. You know what I mean? It's probably at that level. You know what I mean? Where now it's really serious now. You know what I mean? When I played, there was a socialising aspect of it that we'd go to Radder and we'd drink with the supporters all day on a Sunday. You know what I mean? And it would just happen, and that's just the way it was. And yeah, it is what it is. You know what I mean? If you didn't go, you'd probably be cast out by supporters, and supporters would think there's a problem. So if you know what I mean, you all made a conscious effort to join in with everybody else. And if one person did it, then everyone else just joined in and followed suit.
Spot on. Tim, sorry.
The FA Cup final, we did a similar thing where we were drinking down the bay, and all the fans got involved, and it was we ended up just sitting in a pub with the fans, and it was good. It was good bit of crack. I think quite a lot of nice images of that as well, actually. Yeah,
well, the thing is, I think nowadays as well, with players who, you know what I mean, they're that protected, and they don't want to have somebody taking a picture of them and sticking it all over social media, and they're so scared of ruining all the hard work that they've done. It's you know what I mean. If there was camera phones about when I played, Jesus Christ, we probably wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes, but it was just what it is. It is what it was. It was just, you know what I mean. We worked hard, we played hard, and we probably partied even harder when we shouldn't have. But we did it at the right times, and you know what I mean. That was the young lads who were coming through, the Gabs and the Ernies and the James Collins, but we all did it together. The Cavs, the Willie Bolans, myself, you know, I mean, Reece West. We did it because we were a good group and a tight knit group, and I think that's probably why we had our success, and it's similar that you all had success, Kez, because you didn't just train together, you socialised together by doing different things as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Tim Ledner says, "Big Roger Johnson, would I get him on?" Yes, absolutely. I would love to get Roger Johnson on. Martin Spate says, "Happy 50th to Andy." Christian McGrain says, "Get Jason Turner on." Yeah, he's a good shout.
Yeah,
Jason
good shout,
Turner
yeah.
of the dream team, isn't it?
Is that the one?
I don't know.
Notts County's finest, isn't he? Notts County's finest. Is that what he was on about?
He could be. I don't know.
Ex-chief exec Jason Turner.
You'll have to clarify.
Cardiff's
Shane Hudson says. Okay. Brownie says, if Spain do what Scotland have done, Atletico Madrid would miss out on Champions League spot.
Can't happen.
That's a big call.
Well, it is. It is considering that they're still in the Champions League. They just beat Liverpool over 2 legs. So you know what I mean. That would just be an absolute disaster for the club, for the manager Simeone, for the players. You know, it would be an absolute disaster. That.
I think there's obviously bigger permutations than Scottish Championship, League 1, League 2 sort of thing. So I think there's obviously a lot of ramifications because of what they're going to do. So
yeah, totally agree.
Yeah,
totally agree. I just don't think. I just don't know how that can be fair though, because a side who's had a really good run but still got to play Barcelona away, Atletico Madrid away, Villarreal away, Real Sociedad. You know, we just don't know who all these teams have got to still play. They could have played all the, like you said, Si. You know what I mean? If you're gonna get there and you're gonna finish in the Champions League or you're gonna win the league, you earn it by doing it right. You know what I mean? If Liverpool win the league, then they'll win the league by getting enough points and nobody can catch them. For me, that's the only fair way of doing it, and that's the same up the road if with Rangers and Celtic. You know what I mean? That for me, that I think the only fair way is if you earn it, you earn the right, and nobody's earned the right at the minute.
Yeah, I think.
Spot on. Tim Ledner asks, Kev, why did you choose Cardiff over Holland and Norway?
No, Cardiff just were desperate. Really, were just desperate signings. I think obviously the Holland thing and the Norway thing was, like I mentioned, sort of the Andy. The kind of at the time, I don't think I was ready to move abroad. You know, face having to go somewhere where I didn't know the language, sort of thing. I think it was a bit wet behind the ears, to be honest with you, at that age. So it's just a case of, yeah, Cardiff seemed like the more logical thing. But there actually was a couple of other Championship clubs as well. But Cardiff was just desperate. They were just saying, like, come on, come down and get signed after this sort of thing. So other clubs, it was actually Watford who just got promoted. They were umming and ahhing for ages and saying, yeah, we're keen to get them signed, but they were never really offered. They never actually put anything on the table. It was all chat. But Cardiff were there just saying, look, the contract's here, come down and sign it. So they just, yeah. As soon as went down, had a chat with Dave and I think it was Sam at the time. Sam went, yeah, so probably nearly did about turn when I seen Sam and he put it in a headlock and stuff.
Hey, Kev!
Yeah. Nah, but I thought I made up my mind. I made up my mind before it went down, to be honest with you, and then signed and it worked out in the end.
You felt wanted by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
like they made you feel like they desperately wanted you to come sign for them. Yeah,
that's what it was. That's, you know, you can get the vibe of certain things where, you know, especially with the Watford thing, it was like, yeah, we're keen to sign you, but all right, so what's happening? We're waiting about. You going to offer anything, or what's going on? Obviously, without a contract, so I wanted to get myself sorted out as soon as possible. And the longer it ran on, and Cardiff were just like, just here it is, just come down and sign, sort of thing. Eventually, and I just went, I'll get myself sorted now and get focusing on the future. So just lucky it worked out in the end.
Cool. Andy Sean Hudson says, who's quicker, him or you?
Sean used to play for me, and Sean was one of my students when I first went to secondary school. And this lad, I was quick. I was quick back in the day. This lad is something else. Still playing now. So I wouldn't like to race him. So I'd probably say Sean's quicker than me.
Johnny Wish in the house. He says, is there any Cardiff player which you wish you could have played with? Andy, you go first this time.
Oh, it's a tough one. God. Any City player I wish I could have played with? Put me on the spot here. I'll probably go. Right. I'll probably go Stephen Fletcher then, because obviously Stephen was signing just as I left, and probably would have been a decent foil for me, because I enjoy playing up somebody who could hold the ball up and be a target man, and he was all that and scored goals. So I'll probably say Stephen. You know what I mean? Just because I was a centre forward myself.
Do you mean Stephen Thompson?
Oh, sorry, Stephen Thompson. Yeah. Stephen Fletcher. Stephen Thompson.
I was going to say Stephen Fletcher never played for Cardiff.
Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson.
I was so confused then, mate.
Yeah, Stephen Thompson. And Stephen Fletcher on me. I've had Stephen Fletcher on my mind all season. Can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, there you have it. That's an Irish coffee, mate, is it?
Yeah, I think it is. It's no sleep.
What about you, Kev?
I'm not sure actually. Sean Morrison, maybe. I've met him on so many occasions off the park. He just seems like a great guy. To be honest, be a great guy having a changing room. So I wouldn't mind sharing the dressing room with him. But again, he's a good defender as well. And I was quite blessed at Cardiff to play alongside, some guys who probably go down in history as being Cardiff's best defenders. Like boys like obviously Mark Hudson and Big Ben Turner as well, who's quality. Big Darren Purse and Glenn Lubins and boys like that. So, but I wouldn't mind, as a defensive partner having Big Sean there. Definitely.
Good shout. Guys, if you can drop a like on the video and share it around, tag people, get people involved. Every Monday live, 7:30, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, and Twitch now as well. And you can find all the previous shows, youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. And if you subscribe and click the bell, you get notifications every time we upload a new show or go live. And you could do us a massive favor by subscribing. It's free and helps us out a great deal. Okay, let's go back to the questions because we have lots. Right. Richie says, how are these lower league clubs in Scotland able to survive with the league being cancelled? He used to be a steward at Stenhousemuir a few years ago. With great difficulty, I would imagine. What would you say, Kev?
Well, the thing I mentioned earlier was I think the prize money gets given out now because they've obviously finished up the league. So that little cash injection will probably help out for a little while. But other than that, there'll be a lot of clubs who will be probably employing the furlough system in terms of getting wages in and things like that. And they'll just be, like many businesses, they'll just be struggling at the moment. But like I say, that sort of, I think a lot of clubs are wanting a bit of financial security in terms of getting the prize money out, especially for lower clubs. So that'll make actually a difference because there is a lot of clubs who actually will run over a course of a month period and things like that. It will be. It's not like a sort of solid business model where they'll be taking in money and they'll be taking gate receipts into account and things like that. So it's. It's a difficult time for these clubs, especially who can't sustain things. You don't have a multi-millionaire behind the helm injecting cash into it. For these clubs, it will be a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's for any clubs which are running month to month or week to week, and they're reliant on gates and merchandise and food and drinks and everything, kits and everything which fans buy. This could be catastrophic for many lower league clubs in England and Scotland and Wales because there's no way out, and a lot of them haven't got super rich owners, and that's why they run month to month. But
it's also going to have an effect side. It's going to have an effect side on next season as well because their budgets as well are going to be. Because they're going to have to cut the cost accordingly to budget for next season. So whatever money they had in the coffers for next season is probably going to get used up for the rest of this season. Because if you're on a contract, players have to get paid. There's only players who are on non-contract who only get paid to play won't get paid. So these kind of clubs who've had a successful time over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons, who've got all these players on contracts. It's probably going to backfire a little bit now where. If you're a club who's got inundated with full of players semi-pro players who haven't got FA contracts and full contracts, then they won't have to pay anybody out. So it's it's going to be an interesting one next season because teams' budgets could have been used before the season even starts next season.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what I said a couple of weeks ago when I said about voiding the season. I said open the transfer window immediately after, end the seasons. Should have come from FIFA. End the seasons, void them. Goes back to the start of this season in terms of where everyone's going to be, but also open the transfer windows so every club in every country has got maximum amount of time to to make sure they've got enough players, make sure they've got, particularly teams who haven't got much cash. You know, if they're going to lose some players, or they've got to lose some players because they earn too much and they can't keep paying them during this period where they're not, you know, getting gate money and stuff like that, they might need to bring in players who are earning a bit less. So you open that window and you let teams and players find new clubs, and yeah, it's frustrating. Mark Worrell says, surely players are paid the big bucks to entertain. However, at the moment, they aren't entertaining, which makes it a bit of a catch-22, I guess. I think he's referring to the pay cut conversation.
Well, that's a frustrating comment, though, isn't it? Because we spoke about that a little bit earlier, that the word footballer, you know what I mean? Because if we're on about Premier League footballers, I totally agree. Because it's the Premier League money, it's a whole package. But Championship, League One, League Two, Conference North, I mean, these still are professional footballers who, you know what I mean, who get paid to play and get paid to entertain. But you know what I mean, they might struggle next week or next month to pay their mortgage or pay their bills.
Yeah, definitely, mate. What about you, Kev? What do you think?
Yeah, just exactly the same thing, I would say. Again, I know it's putting a label on football again, but I think it just should be high earners across the board. You know, if you earn over a certain threshold, then you might, I mean, just cap the amount they can earn over the course of a month, or this month, or whatever it is. Put a cap on it. The rest either is paid in tax or what. I don't know. Don't know how you do it. I mean, there's sort of ramifications on a lot of things, really. But for people to kind of label it to football, I think it's just a bit strange.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, really. Lee Beams asks, how do you feel about sponsors? Would they want a reduction in the money they have to pay, or would they not want to pay anything as the season didn't finish? And
it's probably opening the can of worms again, aren't you? Because if you're sponsoring games of football, then you want 30,000, 40,000 people seeing your advertising board, for example. You know what I mean? And they're not going to see that. And depending on where your board is for these live games, if your board, for example, is right next to the dugout, and the TV cameras, because every game's going to be televised, is not facing that way, then yeah, it's just I don't know. You know what I mean? There's people there's certain sponsors who'll do really well out of it, because obviously with all the games being televised, the television viewers numbers is going to be absolutely massive for every single game. If that's Championship games to League One, League Two, if they're all televised like they say they're going to be, the viewing figures will be huge, because there'll be a game on every couple of hours. You know, they'll have to be every day, every couple of hours. They'll be unbelievable. But so sponsors, i.e., shirt sponsors, will probably win, because everyone will see those all the time. But it's the match day sponsors and the sponsors which go on behind closed doors. They're gonna really be hitting. But then so are clubs as well, because clubs, Cardiff do, Middlesbrough do. You know what I mean? They'll lose a lot of money hospitality wise than anything, and they'll be hit massively, and it'll cost them a small fortune behind closed doors. And you know what I mean, when clubs are on about furloughing staff and stuff at other clubs, and you know what I mean, this is what I'm talking about. It's not just the playing staff, it's not just the chief exec and all these big hitters. You know what I mean? The staff who work behind the scenes, who nobody really gets to see unless you're working in around the football club and know how it goes on. And you know, I mean, these people will be hit massively hard. Probably harder than other people.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Leslie wants to know, who would you like to have? Who do you wish you could have played for with Middlesbrough?
Oh well, we had a reunion. I'm going back a couple of years now, but probably about 18 months, and the gaffer told us a story about if we hadn't got relegated the season we got relegated because of that dodgy 3 points that got took off us. He was going to sign Roberto Carlos. Everything had been agreed to sign Roberto Carlos, and I think I nearly fell off my chair, because for Middlesbrough to sign Janino and Ravanelli and all these players is one thing, but Roberto Carlos was at another level. So yeah, Roberto Carlos.
It's a shout. What about you, Kev? What about any Aberdeen player you wish you could have played with?
It was an era where Aberdeen obviously were one of the best teams in Europe. So I think guys like Gordon Strack and guys like that. I think they also. Yeah, I'm struggling to think, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Super Jimmy Layton. I played in his testimonial, Kev. Did you?
Jim was still playing when I first came into the team.
Yeah, he was. We went up for his testimonial, and it was a proper good night. It was like just for him, like to play in a game for him, like it was really good.
I was at that game.
Yeah, really good.
Is that when you played at Boro?
Yeah.
I said that to Si. I said I remember sitting in the stand. I was just young, watching it. I think it was a youth team at the time, and I remember watching the game, and I remember you playing, and I thought, I said this to Si. Andy, I thought Andy's a decent player. Yeah, he played on that day.
Yeah, no, look, it was just like one of those. I don't know, like I think because you're a young lad, you take games like that serious, don't you? Where you know what I mean. A lot of the players just went there just to toss it off and just a little bit disappointed that they have to go. But when you're a young lad, you just want to play at all the kind of levels with good atmosphere. You know what I mean? It was like a good atmosphere from what was happening. But as a young player, you just want to play in every kind of environment you do. And it was the first time I'd been up there, Pittodrie, so it was like a lovely place to play. Lovely place to play.
I remember the game. I remember it actually.
Yeah, it was good. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Right, okay, last couple of questions. Go on. Sorry, Kev.
No, sorry. I was just saying Jim was a great player, and obviously ended up high caps. Got a lot of caps for Scotland, and you know he was world class in the end. He ended up obviously Man United and things like that. But Jim, I never actually got a chance to play with Jim in goal. He just sort of retired when I first started. So Jim, that would be a good shout actually. Jim Layton,
top keeper. Indeed. So, right, last couple of questions before we talk the retro games, and then we finish off with some fake Geordie bingo lingo, and then the quiz. Will I keep my undefeated streak? Will Andy sing us out again badly? Or will we get to hear my dulcet tones?
Hopefully.
Or will I just cut it off before I start singing because I'm in charge? But there we go. We'll see. Stephen Harris says, both legends. Question for both of you. Which of Cardiff's biggest rival teams did you love or hate playing against? Kev, you go first.
I enjoyed the Cardiff Swansea rivalry. It's similar quite with Bristol as well, though. I thought we had a bit of a sort of a spell where we just dominated Bristol for a good, it's about 3 or 4 games on the spin, I think. And similar with Leeds as well, where we just had a bit of a hold on them in terms of results. I remember actually, I'm sure there's about 8 or 9 games we went with undefeated against Leeds. From my first game, where Willow Flood scored to beat them 1-0 up at Ellen Road when we were actually doing fairly well. It was obviously that rivalry from the Epic Cup match. So I enjoyed that because we always had a bit of a. And I've got a few mates who are Leeds fans, so the fact that we just kept beating them and we didn't get beat from them about 9 games on a spin just made my life a lot easier because I used to just text my mates after say, done it again. So that was a decent. I like that rivalry, and I liked obviously loved the Swansea Cardiff rivalry, but it's good when you've got a sort of hold on a team. It's good, and you actually go into them games thinking to yourself, good chance of winning this because you've got that bit of confidence about playing a certain team. That was probably the two.
Shout, what about you, Ant?
I'd probably say Bristol City. Bristol was a huge one for us. I think with us both following each other around the divisions at the time was and playing in the playoffs was always a good run. I think we always did a decent job against them as well. I think we were probably the best side over a number of games against them, but probably one I didn't enjoy playing against quite often was Stoke City. It was just an awful. Every time we played against them, they give us an awful game, and they were very direct. You know what I mean? The long throws and just the way they were playing. The atmosphere was very hostile. You know what I mean? When we went down to down to their place, and it just wasn't a very nice game. And I'd probably say Millwall as well, but for different reasons. Millwall for just how brutal the games were and how just nasty the supporters were. And but yeah, I wouldn't say the game was anything to talk about, because the game was just separate. But you can always sense that something's happening on outside. Well, going to happen outside the game and outside the ground, because the atmosphere was so hostile during especially down at the New Den. It was not a very nice place to play.
Indeed. Right. So very briefly, we're just going to go through these next couple, because we got some stuff to get on with. But we are very, very busy today, which is good. Let's have a look. So Tim says, question to both of you. If you could play for one manager, past or present, who would it be? I'll answer this. Dave Jones. Next question. Only joking. Go on. Well, Kev would have played for Dave Jones. He played him every week, didn't he? You liked him.
Yeah.
It was you he hated.
He was always all right with me. He was always all right with me, but I know a lot of guys who would have been including Andy. Didn't quite see eye to eye with.
It is what it is, isn't it? You know, like well, the thing is though, and if a manager plays you, you're gonna enjoy enjoy playing for the manager. So, well, when I grew up in Middlesbrough, a lot of people didn't like Brian Robson because he never gave people a chance. But I haven't got a bad word to say about him, and it is one of those, you know what I mean. But if you could play for one manager, past or present, is that Cardiff or is that anybody in the world?
Anyone, I think. I don't know. You can interpret it how you like.
I would have loved to play for Sir Alex, like for Fergie, because I just think the way he could bring a young player out of absolutely nowhere to pull him through. How good, obviously, them group of players were. And he just seemed everything he touched just turned into gold.
What about you, Kev?
Somebody who worked with Jimmy Calder, I really enjoyed working with him, just purely his training methods and things like that, and the way he was around the place, and just he was really. I had a tough time with injury, and I was coming back from that, wasn't playing well, had a bad season, and then he came in, and it was just like a breath of fresh air for me. So he just got me back on track in terms of my career. So I was only about 21 at the time. So he just steered me back in the proper direction. So I've got a lot to thank him for. And so he's the one guy I look back on in my career and just think, I was actually quite lucky he came in when he did. Just got me back enjoying football again.
Indeed. Alan Jones says it's also frustrating for the fans to have paid for a full season ticket, being left with no information regarding discount or refund for the core of a season which is left. I've got a certain degree of sympathy to football clubs for that, just simply because they don't know. But you've got to communicate with your customer base, haven't you? And you've got to say, look, we don't know, but we will obviously try to come to some sort of arrangement.
But say if all these games, if all these games are going to be on TV live, however, if they're on EFL, if they're on whatever, if that's made free to supporters, then they're not losing out on anything either, because they're going to gain more games, because they're going to get the away games as well as the home games. So it would.
But what if they're only on Sky?
I don't think Sky have got the manpower to cover it. I they haven't got the manpower to cover every league. Where the EFL, they've run their own league station anyway, don't they? So Premier League, I think they'll cover every game, but I just don't think EFL.
But do you not think they'll put them? They'll just chuck them on like. Sorry, do you not think they'll just chuck them on there like MUTV or Cardiff City? Cardiff City TV channel or YouTube channel or their website, whatever it is, with their own commentators.
But if it's done that way, and it's
made around it that way.
If it's done and it's free, then supporters aren't going to lose out either. You know what I mean? It's if supporters have to pay a subscription for a month or two, then obviously it's going to cost even more. So if you pay for a season ticket, you're paying again to watch home games. You're paying again to watch your away games, because you know what I mean. For me, if clubs can make it free to the punters, then at least it's giving something back a little bit to everybody. You know what I mean? Because there's everybody wants to watch your own team finish the season, because we spoke about it, haven't we, that Liverpool are going to win the league, right? So if nobody's watching that Liverpool game when they win that league, then like Kev, imagine your highlight of your career, probably when Cardiff City got promoted. You know what I mean, same as me.
Yeah.
If there was no one in the stadium and there's nobody watching the game, it would have been just the biggest letdown in the world. So, and that's as a player, you don't want that. You said it earlier about you want atmosphere. You don't want to generate your own atmosphere, and you know what I mean. And that's done by the punters outside before the game, during the game, as you're in the tunnel. You know what I mean. It's just going to be such a letdown for so many teams, and that could be an excuse, a reason why you get relegated, or B, you don't get promoted because couldn't generate enough atmosphere. I guarantee how many managers will say that in post interviews after a game, that players couldn't concentrate because there was no atmosphere in the stadium.
Favourite memory playing against West Ham from Gaz? Kev?
It was probably the 1-0 win against them when they were, I think it was Malky's first season. Away from home, just playing. I think we scored about 5-10 minutes to go to win 1-0. Kenny Miller scored. I think it was his first game. Yeah, so that was decent. I think it was Rudy just came on as a sub and did really well when he came on. And it was his first game again for Cardiff as well. So yeah, that was just a sort of exciting time because it was obviously a lot of new boys coming in. We'd lost probably the backbone of our team in terms of we lost Chops, we lost Jay, we lost Joe. I think Joe left as well, Joe Ledley. So it was a total different dynamic to the team, and just obviously we weren't going into that game favourites. We were big underdogs, and it was away from home. So Nick a 1-0 win, and just the actual atmosphere the last 5-10 minutes as well, brilliant. It was brilliant coming away from that, knowing that we'd sort of swag bag, nick the 3 points.
Yeah, we had players like Gusted and Joe Mason coming in. It was a like you say, a very different dynamic to come to. And favourite memory versus West Ham?
It was 2004. I think we beat West Ham at home 4-1. I think Alan Lee scored the first goal, and to be fair, there was absolutely no living with us. We were just all guns blazing and attacking. And to be fair, West Ham going down to Upton Park were always a strong side, and we didn't really get much change out of when we went down to London. But at home, we were a different kettle of fish at home at Ninian Park, and to be fair, especially that evening, they couldn't live with us. Indeed.
I've never played West Ham, so I cannot answer that question. What was your favourite stadium you played in, and?
Probably club stadium. I'd probably say St James's or Old Trafford. I think it's just the atmosphere it generates, and obviously the history. You know what I mean? Because it was unbelievable. But to play at the Millennium Stadium and Hampden Park is only one. Probably I'd never regret anything. But Wembley is the only place that I really wanted to play, which I didn't get to play. But the other two, to play national stadiums is just another thing to be proud of, really.
Yeah. Okay. Leslie Coates says Gary McAllister was a great player, Kev. Don't know. I think he's just telling you.
Very good statement.
Just telling you he's a great player because you're Scottish, I suppose. Johnny Wish says I'm up to 699 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you to the couple of people who subscribed this evening. Who will be the 700th subscriber? If it happens during the show, I will shout you out. There you go, you lucky devils. Let's have a look. All right, any more questions now before we go? I'm not taking any more, but if there's any which have already been posted, then we'll answer them. Okay. No more questions for now. We've answered lots. Richie says, I'm a season ticket holder with Cardiff. I'd be happy with £20 on my City cash account to purchase merchandise, referring to what Alan had said about the season tickets and refunds and this sort of jazz. I mean, I don't know how they do it. What they could do is they could just say you get free access to the the online stuff where they put the games on there, and then say if you've got a season ticket, you get access to that for free. I don't know, I don't know how they'll work it.
Oh, knowing clubs and how we struggle in attendances for cup games, so you could give them free access to a couple of games in the EFL Cup or whatever it is, and you know what I mean, because attendances are that low, no atmosphere. You know what I mean? It'll give clubs an opportunity to give something back to club. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's interesting. There's ways and means of doing it because clubs can't afford to lose. You know what I mean? Clubs can't afford to give every season ticket holder 20 quid back because you've got 10,000 season ticket holders. You know what I mean? It's money what they haven't got now. So you know what I mean? It's eating in next season's budget. And as a supporter, would you rather take money, or would you rather probably the club keep the money and then buy a player out of that money, or you know what I mean, use it towards next season's budget? It's a difficult one to get right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I was just checking to see if I was still on 699, just in case I needed to shout someone out. Johnny Wish says, "Great show, lads. I got a chip before you sing. Disgraceful." Okay, so we picked 4 retro games, but we've been so busy this evening. We've answered so many questions that I think we're a bit pushed for 4 games. So I will let you 2 pick 1 game each from the 4.
Can I pick Kev's?
Cover.
I'll pick Kev's.
Yeah, you can pick 1 game each, which you'll cover. But you can pick each other's.
No, I'll let Kev pick his own because I know what he's going to pick, and I don't mind that one. And
okay.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, Argentina, England.
Argentina, England. Andy.
I'm gonna pick yours because I was there, so I'm gonna pick that one.
Okay, Wales versus Italy. So we will start with that. It was Wales 2, Italy 1. Yeah. Craig Bellamy was on fire.
Yeah, they had a sigh. It was the atmosphere for me because obviously we did a whisper that Danny Gabardon was possible starter. So obviously it made give us an excuse to go and show support. But you know what I mean, I've spoke about how I thought he played that game, but you know what I mean, I'm now talking about the game itself. He was absolutely unbelievable. Marked probably one of the best centre forwards in the world at that time. Del Piero out of a game. He didn't give him a sniff. He even had a part to play in the second goal, and I just thought Wales were excellent from start to finish. Thought Simon Davies, you know what I mean, who was very underrated, by the way. You know what I mean? He's just an absolute pain in the backside for both fullbacks. He was running in behind. He scored an absolute great goal from a very good 1-2 with Craig Bellamy, and even the Italy goal though I think it was deflected off a free kick. I don't know who was deflected off, and Paul Jones in goal was obviously very, very unlucky with being wrong-footed. But you know what I mean? There was just the atmosphere. The roof was absolutely blown off, basically, with the 2 goals, and especially the second one. How composed Bellamy was to take it round the goalkeeper and just slip it in the empty net after Gabs had passed it into John Arson, I think, who slipped it through. And it was just one of those moments where you're just so glad that you were there. That, you know what I mean? I don't think at the time that people realised how much, how big a result it was, and you know what I mean. Obviously, how well Wales have done in the present. That for me, that squad of players and that side was just so good. It was just unfortunate that they couldn't really qualify because of the positions and the opponents they were playing against.
Yeah, I got to say, Simon Davies was one of my favourite Welsh players for this period. He was outstanding in this game in particular. He was so good, and he was really underrated. He was excellent for Everton as well, and I always felt like he would get that big move from. I know Everton's a massive club, but I always thought he'd get like a big move, and it never kind of came up for him. I know he got some injuries towards the end of his career, but you know, the atmosphere, everything was one of those nights where just everything fell into place. And by the way, Gabardon's pass in the build-up to Bellamy's goal, superb.
Outstanding.
I think it's up to Hartson. Yeah. Hartson turns it in behind. Beautiful.
Yeah,
what a finish, by the way, by Bellamy.
It was just the way that how composed he was. You know what I mean? I think that was probably like 15 minutes to go or 12 minutes to go or something. And you know what I mean? to play a game of that stature with the atmosphere, you know what I mean, mentally and physically tired, to come out with the ball and slip a ball through and to not rush your pass. And then, you know, we spoke aside, didn't we, about, I remember him coming into training the next day, you know what I mean, no day off, came into training the next day and just strolled into the training ground like he's just played a reserve game, that no care in the world. And we were just in awe of the fella, and just shows that the kind of man he was. And, you know what I mean, he fitted into that team really well. And you know what I mean, it was just a shame at the time that they just couldn't get over the line and qualify for major tournaments, because, you know what I mean, on performances like that, you know what I mean, because Italy were a good side back then, you know what I mean, with some really good players and you know what I mean, and getting all the way really to major tournament finals. So, you know what I mean, if Wales could have got there, who knows, because they were full of good players. It just didn't work out over a period of time in qualifiers.
Yeah, I think so, mate. What about you, Kev? What did you think of the Wales-Italy?
Yeah, it's just same you guys. Just the quality. You look at the Italian team; it's full of quality. Del Piero at the time was one of my favourite players in terms of just his pure ability. Yeah, so it wasn't like a Mickey Mouse. It wasn't a Mickey Mouse Italian side of a playing.
No.
It was,
oh no,
it was a quality team. I think back to playing against like say John Hartson. I underestimated John Hartson a lot, but he obviously plays his part in the build up to that goal. And he's brilliant, to be honest with you. See, the weight of his pass for the second goals is different class, you know. But I underestimated him when he came up to Celtic. I remember playing against him. I didn't realise how good his feet were and how, you know, intelligent a footballer he was. He certainly surprised me. There's a lot. You look at the actual Welsh team, and there is a lot of good players in it, and you're quite surprised that never quite got to a major competition when you look at the actual lineup.
Well, I was saying I totally agree, Kev, because I was looking in that, and I seen, you know what I mean, obviously Gav's played, Gary Speed played, Simon Davies, Robbie Savage, Ryan Giggs, Craig Bellamy, John Hartson, you know what I mean. So they had the youth coming through, you know what I mean. The Robert Earnshaws, I'm sure Reece was in the squad as well. I'm sure he was sub. So, you know what I mean. They had the young players coming through, and you know what I mean, the potential of they just needed that bit of luck to get to the, you know what I mean, the next stage of qualifying, because, you know what I mean, it was obviously it looked like at the end of the day it was probably a one-off result, but you know what I mean, like now they've got that confidence to progress forward and win more games and be consistent with the results and with the performances. But like you say, you know what I mean, like that, like Buffon in goal, Cannavaro, Nesta, Ambrosini, Pirlo, Del Piero, Montella. Yeah,
Panucci,
that's an unbelievable side. You know that. You know what I mean. Gattuso on the bench. You know what I mean. It's just world class players. You know what I mean. And to be dominated for long periods of time in a hostile stadium. You know what I mean. It just shows how.
With Mark Pembridge and Robbie Savage in midfield, by the way.
Yeah, and Andy Melville at the back with Danny Gabbs.
Yeah, Reece Weston was on the bench as well, mind.
It was Reece.
And Andy Legg.
It was. Leggy sub as well, was he?
Mm.
See, one of the things that sometimes holds national teams back is their actual ranking at the time. I don't know what Wales world ranking at the time was, but that could hold you back massively in terms of who you're going to get up against in these.
Yeah. Well, if you say, Kev, if you're playing against an Italy, that means you're probably playing against a Holland as well, or another pot ahead of you. So if you've got 3 or 4 pots ahead of you, you've got no chance to get out of it, because if you beat Italy, then you've got to beat another team and another team over the course of 6 games. You're struggling, like, you know.
Scotland are finding that out now. Is that the lower you go in the rankings, the harder it becomes, because you've got to beat a bigger club. You've got to beat a Germany. You've got to beat a Spain. You've got to beat somebody to get back up in the rankings.
England.
No. Something But the fact that, you know, you get the other teams. The lower nations are now there's no whipping boys in international football, maybe bar 1 or 2. But back then, you know, there was you were expected to beat other nations apart from the top. But nowadays it's a lot tougher to get back up in the rankings, I think. Scotland are finding that out at the moment. It's a bit tough.
Yeah, well, Scotland have got to do a similar thing what Northern Ireland are doing. They've got to get themselves a couple of good seasons. They've got to have a good Euro qualifier. Yeah. They've got to have a good World Cup qualifier, and then only then will they probably get a decent draw in order to make. So you're looking at what 7 years time, 6 years time in order, you know, and that's how many nations are going to stick by a manager for 6 years if you've got no success and you haven't qualified? You know what I mean? It's a big ask, because every time you change your manager over, you're starting again, and you know what I mean. Managers aren't given enough time, because a major tournament, World Cup's every 4 years, and if you don't make this World Cup, then you're struggling to make or be in a job by the time the next World Cup is. And you know what I mean. I don't get this Euros. The Euros, what's happening? Well, was this year? Is next year? I don't get how you've qualified or how you don't. I never got the permutations of that. I just think it's a whole friendly sort of whatever it may be. But it's just the whole international football is. You know, I mean, it used to be probably the biggest nations were all qualified for the World Cup. Now it's a case of free for all, where you know, you have a couple of good years, you can qualify and go through. But you know, I mean, and there's more teams qualifying as well now, which gives the little nations in Asia and South America, etc. They get better opportunities than obviously the teams in Europe do.
The thing, see, with Scotland, in Scotland's case, Craig Brown used to come in for quite a lot of stick, but he always found a way for qualifying for competitions. I know he didn't play great football, but we just found a way of just sneaking in. And it's,
well, you look at Euro '96, Kev, for me. Euro '96, you know what I mean? Even the England game that Scotland dominated for probably long periods in the second half. They probably should have equalised. They missed a penalty. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for a wonder goal, an excellent, you know what I mean? And then they won the game when Ali McCoy scored in the last game, and it's fine margins. And you know what I mean? However well England did in the tournament, you know what I mean? It was probably because they were the home nation and they got backed by everybody in the country. But they could have easily gone a different way if that penalty had gone in. Who knows where that tournament would have ended up for Scotland and for England? So,
so in a couple of minutes, we're going to be doing a giveaway. In just a couple of minutes, I'm going to be asking a question, and to qualify, you have to get the question to the answer right, and you have to be either subscribed to the YouTube channel or follow. No, you have to be subscribed to the YouTube channel and get the question right. So I'll give people time to subscribe, and then we'll be giving away a free T-shirt in just a few minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna move us along, gentlemen, because we're pushing on for time. But if people want to, tag some people and get them in the live chat and stuff for the giveaway, and then you also get to see myself or Andy sing when Super Kev asks us the questions for the penalty shootout quiz, and fake Geordie Bingo Lingo, of course. It's what everyone is coming to see.
That's right.
So Kev, talk us through Argentina versus England from 1986 FIFA World Cup.
Yeah, so England obviously flipped their way into the semis, and then finally came up against a good team with a half decent number 10 playing for them, from Maradona. But I was like you, I watched the extended highlights of the game. I didn't realise how good Maradona played that day, because every single attack seemed to start through him just running at somebody. But obviously, it's a famous game, obviously, for the handball that he scores. But I think that kind of takes away from his actual overall performance on the day, which was unbelievable. And I think it kind of sums him up with his second goal, how well he takes it. He beats some really good players as well along the way. I know the guys who played that day for England, but we still sort of bear grudges towards Maradona for the handball goal. But that was just the mark of him. It's kind of probably sums Maradona up as well, in terms of he's a bit of a bad boy as well. Did a few things that were a bit naughty. So he showed his bit of a genius and a bit of his dark side.
Do you think that England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, all the home nation teams and nations in all sports, not just football, were behind the curve in terms of the rest of the world with professional sport at the highest level, whereby they accept that they would do pretty much anything to win? They would push the boundaries. They would bend the rules. They would do things, whether it's cricket, whether it's rugby. All teams have been doing it for years to really push the limits of what's fair, what's in good taste, or whatever you want to say. Do you feel like the home nations? I think they've caught up over recent years, but for a long time they didn't. Do you think that's fair, Kev?
I think if you look back to that generation of football, some of the tackles that went in and some of the actual rough play that Maradona gets in that game, he milks it. Don't get me wrong. There's a few he actually milks, and I think it's one thing as the sort of nation back then. You didn't accept people doing that. You don't accept people, milking.
No.
So, I think it's one thing that they were ahead of the time in terms of that. And I look back at these games and I enjoy that side of the game. I enjoy the fact that the boys are going flying into the tackles and having to deal with things. I had a good conversation with my dad. My dad was actually picking his best. I don't know if you have seen this. Pick your best 11. You can't have the same two players who played in the same country or played in the same team. So my dad does a team, and to be fair, my dad made a good point. He said, in terms of putting Maradona or Messi in the team, if you think of the protection Messi gets nowadays as compared to what Maradona got back in playing in Italy for Napoli, and if you watch some of the highlights of him playing and the amount of, he's getting knee-high tackles at times and he's having to shrug them off. The sort of protection these boys get nowadays, if he had that same protection, if he was playing in the same sort of environment, how many goals would he have scored? How many, how much better would he have done if you think back on it? But yeah, so I'm with you in terms of I'm not a big fan of it. I don't enjoy the sort of histrionics that guys make when they get tackled and things. And I think foreign countries are well ahead of us in terms of that as well. I think it has crept into our game though. It has crept into sort of the modern game now, and everybody seems to be involved in it.
Yeah, indeed. I think the Maradona is just so good. He was unplayable, particularly in this game. Was simply unplayable. And what did you make of this one?
I'll go. I'll start with the handball. I think I'm disappointed with the handball in terms of for me. It took away from the second goal. How well he did play. The second goal was a world-class goal, but everybody forgets about the second goal because of what happened in the first goal, and everyone's on about him cheating because that goal deserved to win that football match just alone. Because every time, Kev said it, every time Maradona got the ball, he started an attack. But for me, he was starting attacks in his own half. He was getting the ball. The first goal for the handball started in his own half. He got the ball. He played a 1-2 at the edge of the box. The second goal he scored started in, probably in between his own half. You know what I mean? And he just glided past players. He was deceivingly quick. You know what I mean? And players, like Kev said, players try to chop him down. Players try to do the nasty stuff and bring him down. And when they did do it, he got himself up. He did it again. He wasn't scared to get back on the ball. And we've said it quite a few times on here, haven't we, about being brave. And being brave is not just being on the ball and getting into a tackle. You know what I mean? Sorry, being brave is not just about getting stuck into a tackle and being hard. Being brave is wanting to get on the ball, you know what I mean, in dodgy situations and to win a game. And Maradona he just emphasizes that on his own, 1,000,000%, because he got no protection. You know what I mean? That every tackle now probably would be at least a yellow, if not a red. You know what I mean? Players aren't even getting warned. You know what I mean? You probably look at the early game when they played Cameroon. You know what I mean? Some of the tackles in that game were absolutely horrific. You know what I mean? They'd probably get sent down in prison nowadays for offences like that. And you got 2 red cards in the game. And in 1990, Italian 90. Sorry, he filled 4 years later. And it just shows how talented the man was for the second goal. And yes, it was handball. And yes, it had an effect on England qualifying and going through to the next phase. But I don't see. And I was only young at the time, but I don't think England came out of it pretty badly. I think England came out of it with full of respect. That they came a little bit like a sob story, that they were disappointed that they lost, but there was an excuse why they lost. But they got beat by one player on the day who won the game on his own, and they just couldn't live with. And if someone's going to perform like that, they deserve to win the World Cup. And people go on about being the best player in the world because they've done it on the best stage. Well, Maradona did that every time. You know what I mean? Every time. And he won the World Cup. And he didn't just win the World Cup, you know what I mean, by by winning the World Cup final. He got them single-handedly through tough games like he did against England by scoring world-class goals, and you know what I mean. And it would be interesting to see him nowadays, to see, you know what I mean, and the Pelés of this world, to see how they could stand without getting nailed every time they get the ball and somebody coming through them and injuring them and putting them out the next game, for example. Because like Kev said, that the Messis and Ronaldos, etc., are very, very protected nowadays, and those certainly weren't.
Yeah, and I think when you get brutalized like he did, and like the great players do, it's about wanting the ball, isn't it? You know, even after you've been kicked and stomped. And
one thing I will say though, guys, that Gary Lineker scored another good goal, which obviously got the Golden Boot in '86, and great ball by John Barnes and good header. Yeah, but you know what I mean. For me, it was irrelevant. I didn't do enough for me to be in the game. You know what I mean. That the start of the play once they were 2-0 down, because there was less pressure on them. When the pressure told at 0-0 and 1-0, they didn't really play as well as they should have done.
It seemed to just come. They came into the game towards the end, for what I've seen. But
and we've all played in them games, Si, where you know the game's probably dead and buried, that you get into the game last few minutes, and then you give it a little go, and you finish the game quite positive, and everyone comes off say, "Oh, we're unlucky there. We only got beat 2-1," but it's 2-1 going on probably 3-4 if people put the chances away, and you know what I mean. And then you've got the story of the handball, so it probably looks closer than it was. The scoreline looks obviously closer for me than the performance tour, because Argentina were far superior on the day and deserved to win.
Indeed. So just before we finish off with the quiz and whatnot, we're going to have a little giveaway as a celebration of reaching 700 subscribers during the show. Thank you to the people who've subscribed. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed, but thank you to the people who've recently subscribed, and welcome. As you know, or regular viewers and listeners will know, that sponsors of the show is Away Day Apparel. You can visit awayday.apparel.co.uk for the latest clothes and offers, with some big things planned for 2020. And they've dropped some really, really nice new products recently. They also do t-shirts for women, for kids, baby clothes and stuff. They do all sorts of stuff. And the most recent t-shirt they dropped, which I think was today, is beautiful. And if you use the code, especially for viewers, listeners of Ace Podcast Nation, you can use the code, all in lowercase, AA Podcast Nation. You can get 10% off AA Podcast Nation, and you get 10% off for all orders. And we thank them obviously for sponsoring the show, the channel, and everything alike. But free t-shirt is being given away if you can answer this question and you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Kev and Andy, you are disqualified. Please don't shout the answer out. And the question is, who scored on their debut for Middlesbrough against Cardiff and then went on to be a Cardiff City player? Okay, I will... And we'll come back to that towards the end of the show. We are going to finish in a minute because we're coming up to the 2-hour mark. But we would keep an eye out. You could
say if people watched last week's show, they should know the answer.
Indeed, but don't tell them that. Okay, so before we go into our own quiz, penalty shootout quiz, we shall let's do the fake Geordie bingo lingo.
Right, so I'm going back to a bit of words. So I'm going to teach you a bit of slang from the local area. So Middlesbrough, apparently. So obviously it's the worst place to live in. Second worst place, Kev, to live in the UK. Apparently, Middlesbrough, behind Hull. Never been to Hull, apart from playing there a couple of times. But I've got no issues with Hull. But Middlesbrough's not that bad. But apparently it's the home of the chav. So when Si comes down, he'll meet a few home of the chav. So I've got a couple of sayings for you. So I'm gonna say the word, and you're gonna try and guess what it means. Yeah. So gegging in. Si, what does gegging in mean? So if I said to you, gegging in.
I don't know.
Gegging in. Have a guess.
I don't know.
Have a guess.
Gegging in. Being sick.
Being sick. No, so gigging in means butting in. So you're gigging into my conversation.
I see.
So you're gigging into my conversation. So there's one. An easy one for you, Kev. So Gadji.
Gadji is like a mink, as in just a really rough guy. Rough.
Yeah, so like a bloke who's having a bit of a rough one. So yeah, so
yeah, that's a Dundee slang as well.
That's Dundee slang, is it?
Scottish slang.
It must be a northern
That's
thing.
a Dundee slang.
Northern thing. See, brothers.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go, Si. So we've gone back to a bit of words. Gone back to a few slang sayings.
I love it. We are now educated in Geordie lingo. Bingo. I love it. Okay, time for Kev to take over the reins, and he's gonna get us going with the quiz. Nervous. Just before he does, sorry. Andy's subject for this week, he picked The Simpsons because he's a big kid, and I picked 90s music and 90s football
because he's old.
Because I'm old, yeah. Over to you, Kev.
Right, do you want me to do these questions one by one, as in one each?
Yeah.
Right. So, Si, here's your first question.
Oh shit. I was expecting Andy to be first. Sorry.
Right. Which duo consisted of singer Andy Bell and keyboardist Vince Clarke? Which duo consisted
McCalmont
of singer
and Butler? I don't know. Guessing.
What was the guess?
McCalmont and Butler. It's wrong. I know what it is. Because they got different names. They're completely wrong. I know what it is as well, and it's going to bug me.
Oh, don't worry, I'll tell you.
Do you want me to answer now? Or?
Go on, tell me the answer.
Put on his misery.
Erasure it was.
Yep.
Right, and
I knew that.
Which famous pop star co-wrote the hit single "Do the Bartman"?
Oh, Jesus Christ! Say that question again, please, Kev.
Right, which famous pop star co-wrote the hit single "Do the Bartman"?
Go on, Michael Jackson.
Correct.
No.
Correct. Right.
Under pressure now, aren't you? Under pressure now. I can't remember your questions. I'm going to look at them.
In March 1994, Eric Cantona was sent off for a stamp on which Swindon Town midfielder?
John Moncur.
Oh!
Yeah.
Correct.
You're Man United fan as well. Man United fan.
Right. Simpsons question again. How many complete seasons have aired on TV so far?
Stab in the dark. 24.
30.
Oh, didn't know there was that many. Good question, that.
One apiece. Right. Danish singer Sanne Charlotte Carlson, best known by her stage name, had a 1994 hit with which single?
Say again, Kev. I didn't catch the start of it.
Danish singer Sanne Charlotte Carlson, best known by her stage name, had a 1994 hit with which single? I would never have got that.
Saturday night and pretty baby.
Nice.
90s,
right,
baby.
You're not getting this, Andy, right?
No, I won't. I'm singing
how many children do Cletus and Brandine have from The Simpsons?
Oh, God. It's double figures. I'm going to go for 14.
Oh, so close.
Miles off, mate. 44.
44, yeah. I knew it was double figures.
Right. Sorry, only one manager was sacked during the first ever Premier League season. Who was it?
I have no idea, so I'm going to go with Dave Bassett, just as a guess, because I have no idea.
No. Good question, that
It
as well.
was Ian Porterfield.
Who was it?
Ian Porterfield.
Chelsea.
No, never would have got that.
No. Right, to get back on it, Andy.
Need this one.
In what year did The Simpsons first air in the UK?
Oh, God.
Sky says he'll give you a bonus point if you get the month.
Month. Oh, so I've got 1 in 12 chance, haven't I?
You've got a chance. You've got just a stab.
No, you got to get the year. You got to get the year as well, but you get 2 points if you get.
You didn't say that. You didn't say that, though, did you?
Yeah.
Well, so 24 series.
You know, it work out like that.
How old am I? 40. How old am I? 40. 41. I'll go 89.
Oh, so close.
I'll go. And I'll go. Oh, was it really? I'll go April.
Oh, so close.
September.
You know what, though?
I'm glad I got it wrong.
Do you know what? It came out in America in 1989, but in the UK in 1990. So, you know,
that's unlucky, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you get this, you've won, though.
Yes, you've won it, mate.
I was going to say 99 as well, because you picked 90s.
Name the 1994 debut studio album by Oasis. This is the one I got.
Oh,
this is big
definitely, maybe.
Correct. Game's a bogey, but we'll give you the last question anyway, Andy. To rub some salt in the wound.
Yeah, go on.
What Guinness World Record does the show hold? Simpson.
What Guinness World Records does the show hold? Oh. I'll have a proper stab in the dark, and I'll go for that. It was continuously showed for like a long period of time.
No, it's most guest stars.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to make my question. I'm gonna have to make my questions harder.
I gotta be honest, and right, this finding Simpsons questions was really hard because they were easy. They were either like really, really easy or like really, really hard. It was like difficult to find something in the middle.
I'm gonna have to be brutal.
Well, your questions were quite hard.
They weren't.
I made a tiebreaker question.
Go on, then. What was the tiebreaker question?
Right, see who gets closest to the nearest 1,000. Right, what is the max capacity of Dens Park, Dundee FC?
Oh,
we'll let Andy go first.
Oh, I'll go 18,750.
18,000.
Yeah, 750.
750. Right, okay.
I'll go 18,650.
I've won.
No, it was lower. It was 11,850.
I won that as well then. Right?
Yeah.
No, you would have won. Andy, so I was going to get it anyway, wasn't I?
Yeah. So Andy will sing us out in just a minute, and I think you shall sing Oasis Wonderwall.
Okay, I'll have to find it on my phone.
Yeah, you do that while I'm gonna just talk to the people and say goodnight. And I will tell you what. Just for anyone about the T-shirt giveaway, the question was, who scored on their debut for Boro against Cardiff and went on to be a Cardiff City player? Who scored on their debut for Boro against Cardiff, went on to be a Cardiff City player? You must be subscribed to the YouTube channel and get the question right, and we'll do a random draw of all the people who get it right. When will we do it? I don't know. I'll do it maybe Wednesday. Give people a couple of days, and then we'll do it.
No one's guessing in the chat as well. I'm surprised.
I thought I saw someone did have a guess. I think Leslie had a guess. Leslie Coates, yeah, Leslie Coates. He had a guess at 9:30. No one's had a guess.
No.
It was on the. I think it was on the Facebook chat. Or the
yeah,
YouTube
I was going to say it's not on the one I'm on here.
But yeah, so that's for a free T-shirt. Okay. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sending in the questions. Thank you for getting involved in the chat. It has been a great time. By far, I reckon it's going to be our most watched show live. Certainly the most commented because I couldn't keep up. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the best way to support us. youtube.com/AcePodcastNation. Follow us Facebook. Follow Andy on Twitter at Andy Campbell 32. Follow Super Kev at Kev McNaughton. Get involved, and we'll be back next Monday, 7:30. Maybe we'll have Kev on again. You never know. We'll discuss in private. So don't want to put him on the spot, but we'll see. And indeed, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Kev. I appreciate you coming on again, mate.
No worries, guys. Enjoyed it.
Good crack, Andy. I am unbeaten.
You are, yeah. And well, next week you won't get any right though, because I'm going to make sure of it. It'll probably be 0-0. Be a 0-0 bar fest.
Oh, my wife just reminded me. Kev's raffle finishes in 17 minutes.
Yeah.
Tell us about it, Kev, quick.
Yeah, just quickly. I've just found quite a few old Cardiff strips, so I just thought I'll put them on a raffle website where you can just buy a few tickets for a couple of £. And yeah, so just raffle them off in about 17 minutes. So you've still got a chance to go for it if you want to buy some raffle.
Good man.
It's on my Twitter, I think, somewhere.
Yeah, we'll all give it a share now as well. So yeah, get involved in that. Get some raffle tickets for a great cause, and you get to have one of Kev's old strips. Tim Ledner says, "Thanks for giving your time, entertaining us tonight." I agree completely. Corey Jones says, before Andy sings, dun dun dun, do the Ayatollah. I can do that. Yes. So, and this is tonight, Matthew. I'm going to be Liam from Oasis.
Right, ready? Come on, let's do it.
Take it away, my friend. I got to cut you off
as well. Yeah, you'll have to make sure you don't forget.
Because you'd be so good, mate.
Yeah, I know, that's the way though, don't you?
Just got to sing louder than the music.
Long intro. I'll turn it down when it starts. Today's gonna be the day that we're gonna throw it back to you. By now, you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now.
Andy Campbell, it's in! Campbell comes off the bench to be